Hi, this is Ayushi Mittal and you are watching DNA. United States and Israel jointly launched a coordinated strike on Iran, and this most dramatic escalations come in their long-standing, long-running confrontation with Iran. Whereas America continued to do a military buildup in Gulf and also hinted that he is not happy with talks over Iran. The recent offensive has pushed the region closer to the full-scale war. Now, as per the latest news, the Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei is dead. He is killed by the Israeli-US airstrikes, and most of his family members are also being killed in those airstrikes. So, let's take a full scenario from our international affairs expert, Tridivesh Singh Maini. Sir, welcome to the show again. So, sir, we are seeing that there's a full-scale war is going on in from the Iran. Iran is attacking the Gulf countries also. Ayatollah Khamenei is dead now, and most of the his commander-in-chief, his chief of staff, the military leader is also dead now. So, what's the current scenario going on? Because there are lots of vitalities in the scenario in the Gulf region, and most of the people are worried that what will happen next.
See, first is the leadership, the replacement.
Yeah.
So that obviously, as we were discussing just now, some interim arrangement has been arrived at. Now the issue is that otherwise the name, there was a lot of talk about Mujtaba Khamenei, that is the son of the late Khamenei.
Ayatollah Khamenei.
Yes. So the issue is that while on the one hand, a lot of people are saying that he could be the probable successor, but the a dynastic succession may not be taken very well. Though otherwise, in terms of behind the scenes, he has been a very important player for very long, and in fact, he was also sanctioned by the US a few years ago. So the first issue, which domestically Iran, one obviously there's overwhelming support also for because a lot of people feel that this is an attack on Iran's sovereignty, and obviously there is a support for the late religious leader in that sense. So the first logistics, in terms of logistics, obviously it's a succession which needs to be worked out. Now that is done, there's a council, right? So you have a temporary leadership first within that, and then they will choose who the successor will be. So one part is the succession. Then in terms of the conflict itself, I think it has expanded now. And as you very rightly pointed out, it's not just, you see, it shows the growing fault lines again within the Gulf. Because in recent years, ties between Gulf countries and Iran had begun to improve, even though Gulf countries were also moving closer to Israel. Now, what has happened is that if you look at the retaliation, obviously Iran has hit at Tel Aviv, but it has hit at the US military bases in Gulf countries. The only country which has not been hit is Oman, because Oman is neutral and it has even been mediating between the two. And then also, I mean, it's not just the military bases. You also see, like we were discussing, civilian sites. So, for instance, be it
Dubai
hotels,
International Airport, some of the hotels.
Hotels in Dubai,
also being
then Kuwait, Doha also, right? And other places also, some of the civilian sites are also being struck. So, it has expanded in that sense. Now, what is the reason for that? Obviously, the Iranians believe that, the Gulf countries, this has been done with the approval of the Gulf countries, especially Saudi Arabia. Though for very long, actually, the Gulf countries were pushing the US against any such attack. So one is obviously the conflict is bound to, I don't think, I mean, once it's been said earlier, you can start a war, but you really don't know how to end it. And neither side is showing any, Iran has to strike back. Iran has also said that it will avenge the death of its religious leader. And US also, Trump is saying that the attack, the military sort of strikes will continue.
Yeah, Trump has hinted that if Iran does a retaliatory strike.
So there is no real, China has sort of called for sound, but at this point of time, that seems unlikely. Now, confusion, as we were discussing in the Gulf and the Middle East, it has a global impact. As we've already seen that in terms of one, obviously we'll discuss in greater detail the impact on oil, the geoeconomics of that. If you look at connectivity, it's a very important, the Gulf region is a very important hub. So a lot of flights actually, flights are getting cancelled, passengers are already stranded over there. Now obviously this causes uncertainty and panic, and obviously even the economy gets hit, because it's not just the direct flights, let's say from India to, but even Air India, for instance, has cancelled a lot of flights to European nations, to Canada, to US, UK. I think
globally, if you see, more than 1,000 flights have been stands cancelled.
So there is that economic disruption. And otherwise, again, that whole, for a while, the binary of that sort of Shia-Sunni rivalry, people had thought that you could not view the Middle East from that lens. I think that has come to the fore again. There have been massive protests, and in fact, in one of the protests in Karachi, outside the US, I think 8 people have even been killed in a shooting, right? So it has a spillover all over. There are protests outside US embassies. So it's not a simple, some people would have believed that it could be very clinical, and what I don't think. And then if you look at the whole concept of martyrdom, for instance, in when you look at it in the Shia tradition, I think it has a very important significance. So this will not end so simply. I mean, there is no now any sort of mediation or any back channels. As of now, at least, they seem it really doesn't seem very possible. But there are some people who have. I mean, it's not that it's one-sided. There are people. There are Iranians outside the region, say in the West, who have supported the action and all that. There is a percentage of people like that also. But broadly, there is in Iran, because see, when it comes to an external attack, there is always this thing about sovereignty, and as I said, the concept of martyrdom.
Okay, when we are talking about the people being divided over the Khamenei's death, we have also seen in Iran there are women who have, or the Gen Z we can say at large, who has protested earlier against the Khamenei government, are rejoicing over his death. So we can also see a division in their own country when it comes to the demise of the supreme leader. So how well they are going to take, if a family member, like we say, if Khamenei's son appointed as a supreme leader of Iran, so how well they are going to take this?
See, I think what you're saying, I mean, obviously that's true, but as I said, when there's an external attack, then the dimension changes totally. You see, it's also, I mean, the students, the activists, they are also not comfortable with American imperialism. So the belief is, if there are some issues domestically, they should be resolved like that. Now it's very tough to say that, scientifically, that what percentage is against. But at this point of time, the overwhelming support seems to be, the sympathy obviously seems to be with the Khamenei. But yeah, the succession is a different ballgame altogether. As I said, there's an institutionalized mechanism for that. And whether a dynastic succession will be taken well, whether, people, because in any case, Ali Khamenei himself had said that he did not want his son to be his successor. He had said it. So I think as yet, mostly the attention is one. I mean, this is very important. This logistical part. This will play out over the next few days. But the conflict is what is really. I mean, there are no real now. There's no. You cannot really say that there are any red lines or anything on any side, right? Because both sides, at this point of time, one sees the statements that aggression. There is no real sort of dip in that. It seems that this conflict is going to protract for a while, at least expand further, and as I said, have a massive impact.
What kind of impact it will have on India? Like, I think the gold and the oil prices was definitely going to soar, definitely going to skyrocket, and also the people, the Indians who are stranded in the Gulf countries, like we can also say PV Sindhu is also struck at Dubai. So what this scenario, this current political scenario will have, what kind of impact it will have on India?
No, so I think basically first of all, let's look at, it's not just Iran, so it's the Gulf as well.
Yeah.
Now India has issued advisories to the citizens in the Gulf countries, in Israel, and some in Iran as well, right? To be cautious and not. Now, so the first thing is, for instance, I think if you take the Gulf region, there are over 8 million Indian expats. Right now, obviously, the safety of those, if we are seeing the way strikes are happening in Dubai and the military strikes are hitting civilian, probably people have got injured as well. So the first issue is the safety of those individuals, and we have a large expat community over there. Down the line, obviously, this will there will be economic consequences, right? Because remittances also come from the Gulf. So in the short term, it's the safety, obviously, which is the most important, and then economic issues.
Sir, my last question would be like, what will happen next? There are lots of development going on. Ali Raza Arafi has been appointed as Iran Leadership Council. And you can also say that there is a popular saying, like in the newsrooms also, that the day Iran will jump into a war, it will be called as a World War III. So can we call this scenario as a World War III? Because Iran is attacking the Gulf country, the Russia has reacted into it, the China is reacting. It will have a global impact on the other countries. The Muslim majority countries like Pakistan, who is attacking the US they have attacked the US consulate. So there are especially in the Muslim majority country, there is lots of anger. We can see there is lots of anger against the US, and when we see the US scenario, many people are supporting Trump, but lots of people are also criticizing the attack over Iran. So how we sum up this scenario, and the last question remains, what will happen next?
See, what you're talking about in Pakistan, basically it was protesters who were fired upon. So, and again, they were Shia protesters, right? So that fault line, it's very simplistic, but you need to look at that needs to be. And as I said, now the way coincidentally or for whatever reason, again within the Middle East, that fault line is playing up because the Gulf countries are all sort of Sunni and Iran is Shia. So one is the ripple effect in the Islamic world, the protests, and how will these fault lines play out? Now that fault line is very important, I mean, in terms of the geopolitical importance of the Middle East and beyond. The next is, as we've discussed, I mean, whether we call it World War III or not, but not just the geopolitical, the geo-economic impact is tremendous, more probably than any other event if this carries on. Because you see, as I said, if oil prices go up, then if you look at inflation, it has an impact on daily lives. So in terms of scope, if this conflict doesn't come to an end very soon, and if it carries on for a while, certainly, I mean, it's going to have a far larger impact than any other conflict which we have seen. And the other aspect you need to look at is the role of the important powers. So for instance, China, as I said, has been calling for restraint. But I don't think as of now it has that sort of leverage, right? Russia has also criticized the US attack. And obviously, theoretically, all countries are calling for peace, for calming, reducing the tensions and all that. But the actual players don't seem to be in a mood. And if this carries on, I mean, the impact in various spheres are going to be more than, as I said, any other conflict. So not World War III, but this is major, this is very serious, and this is something which will, obviously touch the daily lives of many people. And so obviously there's uncertainty, but there's always some sort of optimism that maybe some good sense prevails and, things calm down.
So with this uncertainty, we end this discussion. And you are seeing developments we are covering on DNA India. If you want to ask any question, you can comment down in the comment section. That is open for you. If you want to know more updates especially on Iran, US and Israeli war, then you can definitely look up to our channel. You can subscribe to our channel, and don't forget watching DNA. I am Aisha Mittal signing off.